Have you ever wondered, like, really wondered if AI could be creative?
Yeah.
Like actually come up with something new, not just, following instructions.
Right.
Well, we took a deep dive into some research that asks that very question.
It gets pretty mind-blowing, actually.
It does.
This research paper,
All
it's
right.
from NEACL 25. It's called Benchmarking Language Model Creativity, a case study on code generation.
Okay, so we're talking about code.
Yeah.
Why code?
Well, code, it's actually a great way to look at AI creativity because it needs both logic and that spark of ingenuity, you know?
Right, you have to be able to solve problems.
Exactly. You got to solve problems, but you also got to do it in a way that's like elegant, even a little unexpected.
Yeah, like a human would.
Like a human programmer would.
Exactly. And they tested GPT-4.
Oh, yeah. They put the big one to the test.
Yeah, and even GPT-4
This is what's crazy.
struggles to be creative,
Especially when things get complicated.
especially when things get really complex.
Yeah.
So what do we even mean when we say creativity?
Right. Well, the researchers actually focused on two key ideas from cognitive science.
Okay.
Convergent thinking and divergent thinking.
Convergent thinking being.
Convergent thinking is about finding the best solution to a problem. Like you're solving a puzzle.
Yeah?
You're working towards a right answer.
Okay. So it's problem solving, basically.
Exactly.
Straight up problem solving.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's divergent thinking then?
Divergent thinking is where it gets interesting. This is all about coming up with multiple different novel ideas.
Okay.
It's about thinking outside the box,
Okay.
exploring possibilities, not being afraid to try unusual solutions.
So that's really the core of what we think of as creativity.
Exactly, yeah. And real creativity needs both. You have to be able to come up with those wild ideas, but then actually know how to make them work in the real world.
So how did they test this with AI?
So they use this really clever method called denial prompting.
Denial prompting, what is that?
So they would give the AI a coding problem, but then they'd start adding all these constraints.
Like what?
Like, you can't use this common technique, or you have to find a totally different approach.
They were really trying to make it hard for it.
They're basically trying to frustrate it into being more creative.
It's kind of like for us sometimes when we're forced to think outside the box.
Absolutely.
That's when we come up with our best ideas.
Yeah. By putting these limitations on the AI, they're making it move beyond its usual patterns and try new things.
So like one example they gave in the paper
Yeah.
was this challenge where the AI had to solve a problem without using things like for loops or if statements.
Like, those are really common coding structures.
Yeah, like asking a chef to cook a gourmet meal, but you can't use heat.
Exactly. Taking away those familiar tools, forcing it to get creative and find alternative solutions.
So they're making the AI sweat over this coding problem.
Yeah, but
How do they actually measure how creative it's being?
so they developed this scoring system called NEOGAUGE.
NEOGAUGE.
It's like a creativity scorecard for the AI's code.
A scorecard.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
It takes into account both convergent and divergent thinking.
Okay.
So first, did the AI's code actually work? That's the convergent part.
Okay.
And second, was the solution something new and different from what a human would do? That's the divergent thinking.
And they actually had like a giant database of human written code
That's right.
to compare it
This
against.
massive data set.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did the AI pass the creativity test?
Well, not quite. And this is where it gets really fascinating.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did they find?
They tested a bunch of different AI models, including GPT-4. And even though GPT-4 showed the most creative potential, it still fell short of human programmers, especially with those really tough challenges.
So even with all that denial prompting all that pressure to think outside the box, it still couldn't keep up with us humans.
It's pretty humbling, isn't it? And here's the other interesting thing. They actually found that there was a kind of trade-off. The more they pushed the AI toward divergent thinking, you know, that outside-the-box creativity, the more likely it was to make errors.
Yes, so it's more likely to mess up.
Basically, its code wouldn't run properly.
So it's like the more creative it tried to be, the less accurate it got.
Yeah, it struggled with that convergent thinking side of things.
So it's almost like that saying, there's a fine line between genius and insanity.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance. And actually, it kind of reflects our own human struggles with creativity.
Yeah, it does. When we try to be too clever or too innovative, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Sometimes you just got to scrap it and start over.
Did the researchers just like throw in the towel at this point?
Oh, no, they didn't give up that easily. They actually explored a bunch of different techniques
Okay.
to see if they could improve the AI's creative performance.
Like what, did they give it like a pep talk?
Not quite. They experimented with things like Monte Carlo tree search.
Monte Carlo tree search, what is that?
It's a mouthful, I know. But imagine the AI is exploring a maze of possibilities, right?
Okay.
Trying different paths to find the solution. That's basically what Monte Carlo tree search does. It helps the AI learn from its mistakes and make better decisions.
Oh, so it's kind of like brainstorming.
Exactly. It's like refining our ideas as we go.
So what else did they try besides this Monte Carlo thing?
Well, they also tried giving the AI self-correction mechanisms, so it could actually identify and fix its own errors.
So it could learn from its mistakes.
Exactly. And they even experimented with giving the AI the ability to plan out its code in advance, kind of like sketching out a blueprint before starting construction.
So they were really trying to give it all the tools it needed to be successful.
They were pulling out all the stops.
And did it work?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. Some of these methods did improve the AI's accuracy, which is great for that convergent thinking side of things.
Okay.
But when it came to divergent thinking, that real spark of originality,
Yeah.
it was still falling a bit short.
So even with all the bells and whistles, AI still can't quite match human creativity.
Not yet, anyway. But that doesn't mean this research isn't valuable. It gives us a much clearer picture of what AI can do well and where it still needs to grow.
So we're kind of mapping out the frontier of artificial creativity.
Exactly. We're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And you know what's really fascinating to me?
What's that?
If AI, with all its processing power and algorithms, is still struggling to be truly creative, what does that say about us humans?
Yeah, what is it about our brains that makes us so good at coming up with new ideas?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's something about human intuition, our ability to connect seemingly unrelated ideas, maybe even our emotions, that seems to play a big role in our creative process.
And those are all things that are really hard to program into a machine.
Exactly. And that's something we'll be exploring further in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so stay tuned, folks. We're about to get even deeper into the mysteries of creativity. Okay, so we've seen that even the most advanced AI, it's still struggling to really be creative.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what is it about us humans that gives us that creative edge?
Right. Like, is it something about our brains, the way they're wired? Or maybe it's something more about, like, our experiences as humans.
Well, the researchers in this paper, they suggest one key might be our ability to break free from rules,
Okay.
to think outside those rigid patterns.
Interesting. So they talk about humans being good at conceptual blending.
Yeah.
What is that?
It sounds fancy, but it's a pretty simple idea. It's our ability to take two completely different concepts and combine them in a new way.
Okay, so like imagine a car and a fish.
Exactly. What would happen if you combine those two?
Some sort of like car-fish submarine thing.
Right, a carfish swimming through the air.
Okay, so AI can't really do that yet.
It seems to be struggling with that kind of leap. It might be because right now most AI models are trained on these massive data sets of information.
Okay, so they're good at finding patterns in the data.
Right. But they might not be as good at stepping outside those boundaries and coming up with something truly new.
So do we need to change how we train AI then?
That's a really interesting question. Some researchers are actually looking at training AI on more diverse data, like really unconventional stuff.
What do you mean?
Like, what if we trained AI on dreams or abstract art or
Yeah.
even like the random things a toddler says?
That's kind of a cool idea.
Right? Like maybe by exposing AI to these unpredictable inputs, it could learn to think more flexibly, more creatively.
Yeah, like we need to give it some space to play.
Exactly. Let it experiment a little instead of just drilling it with patterns.
So what does all this mean for the future of creativity? Is AI going to replace human artists?
I don't think so. I really believe human creativity has a special place.
Okay.
Because we bring our unique experiences and perspectives to the table, and that can't be replicated by a machine.
But AI can be a tool to help us.
Oh, absolutely. It can help us push the boundaries of what's possible. Like imagine collaborating with an AI partner to brainstorm and explore new ideas.
That's actually pretty exciting.
It is. The future of creativity could be this amazing partnership between humans and AI.
Each bringing our own strengths.
Exactly.
So to all our listeners out there, don't be afraid to explore this world of AI creativity.
Keep experimenting, keep pushing those boundaries, and who knows what you'll create.
This deep dive has shown us that the future of creativity is full of possibilities. And we can't wait to see what you come up with.